Get ready for an amazing recap video. How was Thursday? It was an amazing day in sports, in life, in the stock market, you name it. It was amazing. Let's talk about it. First of all, football. It's a big old L. Arizona does not win. Arizona loses. They put up a touchdown less than we thought. And Aaron Rodgers shows that not only can he host Jeopardy, probably better than Mayim Bialik, but he can also still win the game. And I'll tell you why this happened. I looked it up. I was like, well, what happened here? First of all, DeAndre Hopkins was questionable with a hamstring, which I didn't look at. If you want to look at injury statuses for people, you can open this up. By the way, we're going to talk about football to start here. Then we're going to talk about hockey after that. And then after that, we're going to talk about stock market and specific stock options strategy for one day. That's tomorrow, Friday. One day stock option strategy among some other interesting things. It's going to be a really fun video. It's going to call Ken's Variety Hours, what's happening today. So anyway, injuries. There's DeAndre Hopkins, questionable with a hamstring. Darrell Daniels also. Hamstrings apparently are the injury of choice on Arizona. He's a huge player, and it was even mentioned by the announcers in the game with the little bit of the game that I actually caught today that was a problem. So you could have moved everybody with a hamstring problem out of here like this, and then go back and refresh the score. And instead of 27-13, it would have been 23-13. You actually get a little closer. But DeAndre Hopkins played still, and I think he got a touchdown. So, I mean, it is what it is. But here's the reason why that game lost, and the statistic that hurt us. It was right here. It was the defensive rating. The top defense in the league, rated as of NFL Pro Reference, is 8.4 for Arizona. I mean, Buffalo's next. Somehow the Bears are next. I don't know how this rating system works. But this defensive rating number is really high for them. I mean, their points against were only 109. If you sort this by lowest points against and just look at that, the Saints are low. But there they are, right there in third. There's no reason to believe that their D was going to not hold up as much as it needed to against Green Bay, and that's what happened. You can see Green Bay outscores because Arizona's D did not play the best in the league tonight. And the guy dropping the punt right in front of the end zone or tipping it, not catching it, that hurts, especially in a 3-point game. So anyway, that's football. It's a loss, but there's a whole week ahead. And so looking into Sunday, I'm not going to go over the games, but that's the quick look at it right here if you just want to glance at what the thing says. So let's talk about hockey, which is better today. So a couple of games are still going on. I'm actually going to check to make sure that Winnipeg is still ahead with 2 minutes left in the game. Winnipeg is ahead of the Kings 3-2, and the Sharks are losing like 3-0. So this is kind of fun to talk about today. So the algorithm is much smarter than me and you and anybody else who's trying to handicap hockey that is a mere mortal and a mere human being. And what I mean by that is it's looking at everything we throw into all the data, all the stats, all the injuries, all the rankings, all the goalie stats. It's just doing everything. And it comes up with this margin that is supposed to mean something. The margin means, the margin and the adjusted power, I want to talk about both of those because there's a reason why I list both of those. The margins is supposed to be the difference in quality between the two teams. We had the highest margin of the day being Carolina over Boston, and they won 3-0. Also, we have this thing called adjusted power, which is how strong is this one team, right? How strong is Carolina? They're a 59%, whatever that means, right, out of 100. So it's just, if a 100% team should never lose, right? Only a 100% team can only lose to another 100% team if you think about math, right? Well, this team's supposed to, teams with strong adjusted powers, it's another thing that goes into the margin. It matters what the adjusted power is because you can have a big margin but a low adjusted power, So, if one mediocre team is playing a bad team, for example, so you have 40% powers, 40, 39, 41, 39, and look at that big old 59 for Carolina. And the reason why I'm talking about this for so long is because of, I will call him my friend, the off-the-wall hockey guy. He's John. He's got like 6,000 YouTube subscribers, does a hockey pick every day. He picked St. Louis to win today because they had a good line. And I commented on his video, and I was like, you know what, that's a great pick. I go, that's an awesome line. They're at home. I knew the algorithm was going to love this. Look at their adjusted power is 47%. It's awesome. The margin is awesome. It's still 31, but it's not the best pick of the day according to the algorithm. The algorithm had one higher for whatever reason. And so when you start to look at things like adjusted power, you see there are other teams that were close to 40-something percent. There's a 12% difference in adjusted power between Carolina and St. Louis in today's games. So that's actually a pretty significant number, 12% of this, right? And it's just fascinating to see the difference in the quality of what the algorithm picks out, because that's why I say this is the best that's ever been made, because people try to think when they design when they handicap, right? People actually look at stats, they crunch numbers. I don't look at any of this. I copy and paste some stuff and write a bunch of formulas that I believe, using my logic of data analysis and organization, will provide an adequate representation of who is playing and how they're going to play and what kind of results you're going to get based on like regressively testing this out over years. And that's why we have just differences in quality like that, where the top pick wins. And the pick that I agreed with him on loses. And it's the difference between winning and losing, is you always want to go with the best. So I know it's a long drawn out thing to talk about why the best pick on here won 3-0 and why I'm happy about that. But the difference between the first and second best pick is just like being first or second in a race. Does anybody remember who came in, second? And who's the second best Formula One driver? Nobody cares, right? So do we want to talk about the games here? Yes, of course. The new goalie for Arizona is just like the old goalie for Arizona, and Tampa Bay, of course, wins this game 5-1. We predicted 4-1 or 2. Yay. I didn't bet it. I did do some betting today, though, and I won some games. Calgary, look at that. Crushed it. More than we thought. We thought this would be a closer game. But Calgary wins, and Calgary had essentially the better line in that game. Good for the algorithm. Carolina, we discussed in depth. St. Louis came back and tried because they are a good team, but they couldn't tie it up late, and that's just sad. Good game. Just good. They're a good team. They just didn't win. Philly, underdog, crushes it. 2-1. All right, not crushes it. Lower scoring game. I guess we didn't get that right at all when it comes to point projections, but they somehow win. So these two teams playing a little better, and we get the underdog win. Same thing with Buffalo. Win it in shootout overtime. Here we got the score almost exactly. Phenomenal. Underdog, that's great. Minnesota and Seattle. Big loss. Seattle, the Kraken at home, apparently are a pretty good team. And Montreal, San Jose. Awful loss. Aiden Hill's looking like the Aiden Hill back when he used to play for Arizona the last couple games. So that's that issue. And San Jose, off to a really good start, has broken off. This is now a home game they've lost after losing the road games. So Montreal, of course, a team that was fighting for something. They're trying to get back into this too. So that's an underdog the algorithm misses, but I don't know how the algorithm was going to give Montreal any credit anyway. And then Winnipeg looks to win this game as well. Look at that. I think it's, hold on, I don't want to say it before it's over. There's 1 second left. So unless the Kings score with 1 second left, that's a win also. And we're 6-3. And I mean, it's an okay day. I mean, I'm kind of happy with that, and we'll look at that tomorrow. Let's end on a whole bunch of stock market talk. And like I said, some fun stuff. So keeping an eye on the stock market today. And I did do some research, as I had wanted to talk about yesterday, and actually need to I've looked at all these companies today, which was the 28th. Looked. I want to look into Chipotle a little bit more. Looked. Yeah, we're good. And then also I looked at Twitter, which I want to talk about as well. And I think I moved Twitter way down here. So we'll start off with Twitter. Twitter had a target price that was a lot higher. It would have had them a lot more up on this list. But I looked at their revenue issues that are going on, and they're more of an election year company. They get a lot more advertising revenue, I think, during election years as people try to craft their image online and use it more. So you got a whole, maybe you're seeing a little more now, but I still feel like this off election year is good for them either. So their revenue and they're looking at their income is only like $30-40 million or something. It just doesn't look like they have sustained profitability. And so I moved them way down, and maybe they're taking a beating also because Facebook's, or Meta, or whatever the Facebook company is going to be, is taking a beating. But I'll talk about Facebook at the very end of this video again. So Twitter goes off the list, is what happens today. So that's the kind of the news I want to give you is I essentially don't want to invest in them at all. But if they drop way low, they're going to come back in another election year, so they're worth it for now. But let's get into the fun stuff and what I want to talk about for tomorrow. So I'm in love with Moderna, if you didn't already know. And today they jumped up a few bucks like the last 10 minutes of the day. There's a little rush, and that little banner where it says Moderna's earnings are coming out, 6 days pre-market or something like that. So I think it's next Thursday is when the earnings are coming out. And now we're at the end of the month. It is the end of October. And the thing about what happens to the market at the tail end of month sometimes, quarters especially, but this isn't a quarter, but this is still a month, is people that trade stocks for a living and that have to report their monthly gains and losses, they gotta, they close that out. This is the last day they close that out. And so stocks of companies that have gone up a tremendous amount in the past month usually get sold. Some of them, not all of them, of course, but sometimes there'll be a sell-off the last day, because if you get a commission or a bonus or something on making a lot of money, you want to get it at the end of the month. You get paid. It's just kind of the way it works, the way they record it. So, well, who has gone up tremendously this month? Let's look at a 30-day tag, if you will. So who's gone way up? Well, one of these charts is not like the other. Well, that's not true. These ones up top, not so much, and that's why I'm going to talk about Moderna in a second. But Chipotle down, Amazon flat, Netflix up some, yeah, actually a lot. I should keep an eye. I wasn't thinking about Netflix before I did this video. BioNTech, like loopy, Moderna, not up, Moderna down, right? Tesla way up, Alphabet up. Now here at the last day, Sherwin-Williams up. So here's the one with Tesla way up. Well, if you want to freeze in some profits on Tesla, I know people are thinking they're still going to skyrocket, and they probably are longer term, but tomorrow would be a sell day for them. So I would say keep an eye on that. I would be really, really astonished if they go up like over 1,100 or something tomorrow. It would just blow my mind. It would have to be some really amazing news I'm not expecting. But I'm expecting more of a sell for them because of that. So it's a good day to come in and buy an option and, at the beginning of next week for Tesla, because I expect them to drop tomorrow. And I'm going to leave their target price at what they are exactly. That's why this is yellow. I had it at 1,000 because I think they actually kind of will drop to 1,000 once this fad of them going up way too fast kind of wears off. But then they're going to go up again over the last. So it's kind of like, well, if I say, well, what price did you buy Tesla at? Well, it matters when you want to sell an option. And right now I think they are going to go down. So let's just leave that 1,000 for now. Okay? Just leave it there. But it moves them way down on the list, which is why I want to undo what I just did and leave it at the current number, because I like to have them on the list, because I don't actually mean they're going to drop it below 1,000 immediately, but leave it there for now. So understand that the direction a stock went during the month may dictate what happens tomorrow. Well, I just showed you that Moderna did not go up this month. Actually went pretty far down. So anybody who's going to be selling Moderna tomorrow is probably shorting the stock, not long on the stock, like a lot of people are. And there's no reason to take profits on Moderna if you bought it at the beginning of the month, or even before that, if you look back 60 days or so. There's not a lot of pressure for Moderna to get sold tomorrow for people to take profits for October. If anything, it's a good time looking at the chart for companies and people that need to balance their portfolios to own a proper distribution of companies that are on the S&P 500 in their portfolio to buy Moderna. And then there's that banner coming up saying earnings 6 days from now. 6 days from now it's going to be popping up. People are going to say, oh, well, if I want to mess around with Moderna after what I'm sure are going to be very, very interesting earnings. Very, very interesting. A company that's making money and showed extensive profitability. I'm going to want to own them for the next week, and I might get in here at the end of October while it looks relatively cheap and while I don't need to sell any of it. And I suspect Moderna goes up tomorrow. I think Moderna will go up over $20 a share tomorrow. That's what I think is going to happen. I think they'll probably get to like 370 something. So we'll see what happens. But I actually have a 1-day option recommendation, right? Like you can try to buy a 1-day option to have them go to 360, I think, for $80 right now. I know this because I own one. I bought one earlier this week, and I'm down on it right now. I'm down like $130 on it. But I'm not worried because I think that tomorrow's going to be a big day. And it's interesting because they're only $13 to $12 shy of 360. So this thing that's $80 right now, okay, it's $80. Now, I don't know if it's going to be that way at the open. As a matter of fact, at the open, if Moderna goes crazy in the first 5 minutes, you won't be able to buy it for $80. It'll be like $150 or $200 in like 3 minutes into the market or something. So we'll see what happens. But then it might go down again if Moderna shoots up and down, and crazy things happen in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the market. It really is just a free-for-all. So what I would recommend is, because I have this option, I'll be able to watch it. If you buy that option tomorrow, which is $80 right now, if you somehow get it for something around $80, if what I think is going to happen happens and it goes up $20 a share to like almost 370, let's call it, that option has a value of an intrinsic value if they get to 370, a $360 long call strike price option that expires for October 29th, which is the day you are buying it. That will be worth $1,000 at the end of the day, essentially intrinsically, if they got up to 370, right? So that's like taking $80 and turning it into $1,000. That's what I think will happen. And throughout the day, you'd have options, you'd have the availability to sell that option for 150, 250, 350, 400, as it goes up throughout the day. If you get scared that they might go down and you might lose it all, you can turn around and just sell it for probably 3 or 4 to 1 on your money in the middle of the day. I actually think that's going to happen because of all the reasons I just said about what should happen to their stock tomorrow. And it's all backed up by the fact that this company is changing the way we deal with viruses on the molecular level, and the product they have is so amazing that it saved countless lives so far and will continue to save lives into the future. So that's my advice to anybody who wants to buy an option tomorrow. It has $80. I don't think you're going to be able to get it for $80 in the morning. See what you could get it for in the morning. Like if you put in a $100, $100 is actually a reasonable amount if it's at 80 right now, to try to come in at the open and put that order in for $100, $360 1-day strike price. Try it. I think you'll be happy with what happens to it tomorrow. So that's my advice, to show you how day trading works and how crazy it is. In my opinion, we just talked about gambling, right? Like I bet $100 on hockey tonight. I think I actually broke about even because I had St. Louis in my picks. I had San Jose and lost. I had Minnesota, but I did win with all these other ones and hit some underdogs. And I forgot to bet Calgary, and I refused to bet Tampa Bay. So I think I broke about even, and I lost a little bit on the football game, obviously. But I didn't bet too much because Thursday night games are crazy. So anyway, that's the money-making recap and update for Thursday and Friday. I threw everything together because, these are all things that you can do remotely and mess around with money and mess around with small amounts of money and have potentially strong multiple returns. That's why I lump all the sports betting and the stock stuff together sometimes, because it feels like gambling. In this case, with short-term weekly call options, you're essentially gambling with the news. You're betting on the news, and if the news is unbelievable, then there's a multiple on how crazy the news is, and it just turns into money. It's kind of fascinating that way, and I never would have discovered the whole stock market thing had it not been for COVID. I have to thank COVID for that, because all the sports stopped. When does all sports stop? That's what stopped all sports. So there you go. All right, well, good luck, everyone. May all of your football and hockey and company stock market picks, trades, all be winning.